Hey everyone, welcome back to Data and Donuts. My name's Aaron. I'm here with my friend and colleague, Antonio Alarcón. Hello, Anthony. How are you?
I'm well, thanks. Glad to be here. Looks
Excellent.
like you're doing well too.
Definitely. So a little history on Anthony before he tells us a bit about himself. Anthony was the one who was the first person I ever met in college. And I was a student worker who worked underneath Anthony, and he showed me all the ropes. So that was a really long time ago. And look at all these mistakes since then. Just kidding.
For
Um,
sure.
So before we get into our interview, Anthony, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Antonio Alarcón, and I am currently the Dean of Educational Support Services at one of our larger districts in California. And I focus on a lot of the instructional related tools of the trade. So I do strategic planning for our district, accreditation, international education, grant reporting, and other pieces that kind of pull together a lot of the components of instruction and bridge those to student services. And then I do district-wide coordination and facilitation.
Excellent. Sounds like a broad collection of things really brought together. That's hopefully really diversified all the cool things you've been involved with. So that's fun, something new every day. So with that comes to our first question. How do you use data to inform your decisions? What do you use and why?
So I've been in the California Community College for 16 years at different institutions, from single campus, single college districts to a large multi-campus, multi-college district. And I'd say the use of data is something that permeates all of the work. So I have a student services background and an instructional background, and I've seen how data can help institutions really establish the programs they're trying to implement and to really focus on getting resources to themselves and to students. So ultimately, you look at data to determine where should your resources go, whom should those resources focus on. So an example would be in doing student equity planning. I was a student equity coordinator for a couple of years, and I wrote equity plans. I wrote the integrated plan for one of the institutions, and determining which groups were disproportionately impacted was a critical part of that planning process. So we'd identify groups within groups to see if there were ways we could tailor the support structures for those students, and then over time measuring any change in outcomes. And that's something that is carried forward into a lot of different components of the work. In instruction, we have enrollment management, and we're looking at course data, specifically numbers of sections offered, fill rates, and those types of things. And we have to figure out, do we keep these sections? Are we not offering enough to get students through their programs? In strategic planning, we look at key performance indicators. We have environmental scans that we do to determine, population growth, transportation needs, employment, which sectors to focus on. And the list goes on, and it just permeates throughout the work.
Excellent. And as you start looking at all these data throughout the time, what are your go-to data points? Like something you maybe check on a more frequent basis?
So it's fairly cyclical. On the instructional side, we have these runs up to the term where it's, daily, you're looking at section counts, you're looking at enrollment, you're looking at, what are those trends? And I think that's something that, we have to be cognizant of those changes so that we can react and make sure we're ensuring that, our students are getting what they need, but also we have faculty under contract and they have to meet load. So how can we really utilize that data to make sound decisions? I like to use a lot of different resources. Our district is fortunate enough to have some published Tableau dashboards for enrollment, student success data. We have a system called EMS, which is Enrollment Management System, and it specifically goes deep dive into the section level data. We run queries from our student information system and then plug that into some macros, and then that pops out some more information for us. And that's the stuff we use constantly. It's a daily thing. We report back to our 4 VPs of instruction and then work with them to really hone in the sections that are being offered during any given term.
Well, that's awesome. And I think that's a really good approach to do with your enrollment management process, is really consistently looking at information and really building that dialogue. And I think data is that start point of that. So I think it's really cool to build that in the foundation of the work you're doing. And so when thinking about this, where do you see the future, especially in academic affairs, with data utilization?
So I think there's like 3 key pieces that, should be like right in the center of data usage. Enrollment management is one of those things. I've only been in one institution where we had something automated that showed us trends daily of where sections are, when the drop-off points were during a term, and what it looked like. And you could go to section level, course level data, and we kept all that confidential because we know, there are certain considerations regarding privacy for faculty courses, but also for student privacy, depending on, the size of the population of a section. But I think something where we're being able to, in real time, analyze what's going on with our section level information, enrollments, the trends of, okay, students, they enroll this day in these classes. If something new opens, we don't see anything move until some other trigger point, and then trying to determine how the students came to the decision to either add or drop that day, and then work toward a solution in getting students either in sooner, which is what we typically need, or more consistently over the course of priority through open registration to when the term starts. So that's one thing. The student-centered funding formula has really shifted the way we look at how our students are completing their courses and their programs and which types of courses they're completing. And I think we as institutions would be doing a disservice to students who are, 1 class away, 3 classes away from getting some kind of credential, right? How can we use that data to get a student to complete their program, which also happens to help the institution in meeting some of those student-centered funding formula metrics, right? So I think those are areas that, are clearly something that have to be addressed by institutions. And I think the third thing is being able to use data to support institutionalizing high impact research-based practices. Often when new initiatives of funding come out, data can be used to shape an argument, but it's typically those who are in on the conversation first, those who know how to use the system to leverage the system into getting their programs funded. And it's not those folks who aren't as necessarily connected to the game. So when new initiatives come out, ensuring that everyone has a seat at the table, but developing a schema for those individuals who may not necessarily understand it to gain that understanding. And after they've gained the understanding, then provide the forum for them to actually use that voice based on understanding so that they can, make their cases and then ideally integrate their programs in and institutionalize those programs through new initiatives.
Excellent. I think those 3 points are really well said and spoken, especially when we're looking at the future and how data is always around us, and how do we grasp and find those hidden gems to help, better understand and dig into that data to help us guide our decisions. And I think that's something that's, some schools are very well advanced at that. Some are at the infancy stage. And it sounds like some of the work you're doing is in that more advanced stage, which is very positive. And also having that vision of what it can become. Because, when we get people in a room, we're like, we need to look at some data, and people are like, yeah, data.
Right.
So
I think you're totally right. In data visualization, we've made like these crazy strides in the way data is visualized, right? But a lot of institutions haven't really jumped on that train yet, or they don't have the skill set yet and they want it, but how do we provide an infrastructure to like support all the institutions and making like useful, digestible, and beautiful data, right? Because there's beauty out there when it's presented the right way, and it really gets people fired up to put in that work.
I completely agree. And I think that's really the next step, is really building that information literacy, is how individuals can consume information. Just because we put it in graphical form or a numerical or even written format doesn't mean it's consumed or utilized in the way that it may be intended. And so I think that's some of the things that we'll see in the future, alongside with a lot of the data usage you're mentioning, is we're going to hopefully see that there's a maturing of how people consume information and really use it in a way that's intended. No, this is some fantastic conversation we're having, which leads to my bonus questions. So we hear data, data. I hear it all different ways to say it. Now, I'm happy with any way anyone wants to say it, and I don't dismiss them. I usually just meet them where they are. When they say data, I'm like, yeah, data. Sure, here's your data. And so, but how do you say it?
So I've said it a number of times in our conversation here, and I'd say, it's that tomato thing. One's tomato and one's wrong. Oh no, it's yeah, I'm with you on that. I think, meeting people where they are is important, but then, using data and datum, because
Correct.
the data, they don't lie.
That's right.
So
That's funny. And then it leads to our second most important question. What's your favorite donut?
well, I do like the Bavarian cream, but I'm not gonna lie, this bad boy right here, this apple fritter, my favorite donut.
That's mega. She's like, send half of that over and I can feed my son and myself for like the next year.
I got you. We got some in the mail for sure.
Excellent. Cool. Well, thank you so much, Antonio, for hanging out today, for giving some insight. And I look forward to collaborating with you in the future on a couple other topics we'll have coming up.
Sounds good, Aaron. I appreciate it. I love this series. I think sharing the word is critical, and getting these conversations out there and making it fun is something that's definitely going to take us forward.
Definitely. Well, thank you everyone for watching. Please hit the button to subscribe, and we'll see you next time.